Welcome to the No Bibs, Burps, Bottles podcast, where we highlight and share the stories of African American women who are 30 plus, child-free, wonderfully made, and living their best life. Remember, womanhood is not synonymous with motherhood. This is Dr. Angela L. Harris, your host. Come join me as we get comfortable and cozy with no bibs, no burps, no bottles. Stay tuned. Welcome. It's great to see everyone. I'm Dr. Angela L. Harris, visionary and founder of No Bibs, Burps, Bottles. No Bibs, Burps, Bottles is an online community and brand that empowers, celebrates, highlights African American Black child-free women. We say child-free by choice, which is what I am. We also say child-free by circumstance, but with No Bibs, Burps, Bottles, you define you. So let's jump right in. Child-free Black men speak. So if you registered, you saw a little bit of information about our speakers, but I'm gonna allow them to share just a little bit more about themselves. So maybe just share your name again, where you're from, and maybe share with us, because I want to be consistent, maybe share with us how you see yourself, or what label do you have? Are you child-free by choice? Are you child-free right now?
Good evening. My name is Rob Walker. I am originally from Vicksburg, Mississippi, currently reside in Houston, Texas. I would consider myself definitely child-free. It's a choice for me. And I guess a fun fact is that, as I put in my bio, like, I love to travel. My splurge, everyone splurges on something. I splurge on getting up out of here. So that's my fun fact.
Thank you, Rob. Courtney, share, please.
It's Courtney Gibson, and I'm originally from Rochester, New York. What was the other one? A fun fact was the last one?
Yep.
I met Stevie Wonder. I don't know.
That's pretty cool. That doesn't happen every day. And Courtney, how do you self-identify? Child-free, childless?
I'm childless. So it's by choice, but it's not by choice. I don't consider myself child-free as intent to stay that way.
Okay.
So yeah, I would be in the childless side of the house.
Okay. And Darren, what about you?
Good evening. I am Darren Taylor, or DT. I forgot to change my name in the Zoom. Originally born and raised in the DMV, still here. It's love. Fun fact about me, I'm a musician. I play 3 or 4 instruments. I got a chance to go briefly on tour with Chris Brown a couple years ago, which was life-changing. And I choose to be childless by choice right now, but it is a desire at some point to have children, just waiting for that time.
Calvin?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Calvin Lineberger. Actually, I was born in North Carolina. I don't really tell too many people that, but because I claim Baltimore, Maryland as my hometown, and I identify as child-free. And a fun fact, there are a lot of fun facts about me. I will say this, my favorite entertainer is Janet Jackson, and I go absolutely hard for her. So that's a fun fact of many.
So let's jump into our questions. Courtney, or brothers in general maybe being selective regarding who will be the mother of their offspring, or is being child-free a long-term decision?
For me, it's selective. I just didn't want, number one, I wanted to have a child out of love first, primarily. So coming from, a family structure where I have mom, father in the house, until my father passed away, I've had that unit. So that's my ideal of building a family. So that's what I wanted first. And so to this point, having not found the person to fit, what I want to build as a family yet, as far as a partner or wife, then that has been my selectiveness.
Okay. What about you, Darren? Are brothers being selective regarding who will be the mother of their offspring, or is being child-free a long-term decision?
I think at this point in time, brothers are being selective about who they decide to start families with. personally speaking for myself, I came from, I'm a product of a two-parent household. My parents have been married for 35, 36 years. They had all of their children within marriage. They built businesses, they have homes. I seen the perfect blueprint of what a two-parent home looks like. And I want the same for myself. I seen what it is like with no judgment to anybody else. I seen what it's like not to be in a two-parent household or to have multiple individuals to bear your children, and that's just not something that I chose for myself.
Okay, thank you. Rob, what about you? Where do you stand on that question?
For me, if it comes down to being selective or if it's like the long term, a little bit of both. Primarily more long term for me. I'm okay with not having kids. If I have kids, it'll be because I find somebody and it's a strong drive for her, and like this is the person that I want to raise somebody with. But if I never have kids, I'm Gucci. Like I'm pretty good. My life is pretty great. And I guess it's very interesting to hear the other two gentlemen who went before me. Like I'm from a single parent house. Well, my parents were married and they got divorced when I was very young. So I grew up with just me and my mom. So I'm sure that has something to do with it. But yeah, I'm good.
I hear you. That's where I'm at too. And CL Smooth, for those who don't know, I said it earlier, Calvin and I I was in graduate school and he was an undergrad. So we've remained friends since then. CL Smooth or Calvin, I'll be professional. Where do you stand on this question?
Oh, it don't have to be professional.
CL Smooth.
I'm hoping that people are selective with who they choose to make a child with, whether it's the brother being selective about the mother or the mother being selective about the father. I mean, you're bringing a life into the world. So my perspective on that is you definitely should be selective in that regard. For me, I am child-free now, and I do plan to be child-free unless I meet someone where we decide we want to have a child in some way. Also, just to put it out there, I do identify as a gay Black male. I've identified as a gay Black male since probably since I graduated from college. So that's a little bit of my story, my transparency, my truth. So I hope I answered the question.
So with that being said, Rob made it very clear that he was Gucci and good. If for those who are looking for a partner, if that never happens, I hope that it does. But if it never happens for you, is fatherhood still important to the point where you will seek other means, adoption, foster a child, or is it just the fact that you want to be married and have a partner?
I still want to. Yeah, I can hear you. I wanted to bear children myself with my wife. But even with us starting our own family biologically, I always said I wanted to adopt. I think adoption is a blessing. There are so many children who wish they had someone to love them, a home to go to, stability. I think it's a blessing to do so. So even still, I'm hoping, I do find a spouse and do start my own family. It's still in my plans to adopt.
Okay. Courtney, what about you? If you don't find a partner, are you open to adoption or foster care? Is fatherhood that important to you?
I think for me, my main focus is to be a biological father. If I had to make a decision now, I probably would not adopt, but I can't say I wouldn't in the future. So if that becomes a decision that I have to make, it depends on where I am, mentally, emotionally at that point. But I think what drives me is to carry on, my family genes. So it's a biological desire for me, a little bit less than it is a simply fatherhood desire.
Okay. So this is a question to Rob. Rob, you've made it clear that, again, if you meet someone, fine, but you are totally fine being child-free. With that being said, have you thought about getting a vasectomy and making this permanent for you? And that will also be to the rest of you guys, but I'm asking Rob first. I know for some women who are child-free, they go the sterilization route. And so share your thoughts about that.
Actually, so yes, I have, like I have a very close group of friends. We talk about these things very often, and that's the subject of conversation. I've thought about it. I'm not to that point right now. I feel like if I was mentally now, if I was here when I was in my 20s, when I was living a different lifestyle, I definitely would have gotten a vasectomy, just to protect myself, right? But I don't live that life anymore, so we're good. But it's definitely something I've thought about, and I continue to think about it, but I'm not there. But definitely open to it. Okay. I'm open to it.
I know this could be a touchy subject for some men. I know Young Jock and his wife, I watch Love and Hip Hop, don't judge me. And on this show, his current wife, who doesn't have any children, was basically saying, hey, you're a rapper, you've been out there, you got like 8 children, you know, how many baby mamas? And she was really wanting him to get a vasectomy. And he said that that would destroy his manhood. But yet she was coming from a perspective of, you have several baby mamas and how many more kids do you want? So let's throw this to Calvin. What are your thoughts about getting a vasectomy, especially if, you know, having a child is not in the future, you don't have a partner?
Okay, so I'll speak from that Love and Hip Hop comment that you made. I think it's absolutely up to the individual. We don't want to take any human rights away from anyone, especially with the whole Roe versus Wade thing. So I'm not gonna badmouth guys out there who have multiple magnitude of children. But what I would say is that if you're able to make them, be able to take care of them and not leave that responsibility on the rest of society to take care of your child that you made because you were just out there, you know, wilding out, living your life and enjoying yourself, but not being responsible. So that's my stance when it comes to vasectomy. You know, it's a part of your body. It's your choice. Make it as you see fit, but try to be responsible and, you know, be able to take care of those children that you make. So that's my stance.
Good point. Darren?
I have to agree with Calvin. You don't want to step on anyone's choice to make decisions with their own body. And we're really in some critical times right now. But as is mentioned, I think it's severely irresponsible to have multiple children and not want to take care of their children. I know a lot of people say it's still irresponsible to have children, you know, regardless. And we're looking at Nick Cannon every 3 months, you know, new child. And that's another topic of conversation. I just think you have to be responsible bringing a new life into the world. I personally won't get one. I don't see a purpose why I should get one. But if you're going to bear children, have children, and create children, you need to take care of them. That is physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually. Some people think, okay, I got the money, but are you there present to take care of the child? When the mom might be, you know, going through it, you have to take care of your sick child. If she's having a day, you have to balance, you know, in that child's life. That's just my stance on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, guys. So Courtney, I'm going to throw a new question to you. So you guys are at different places, you know, child-free. Some of you guys are like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I know for women, right, and No Bibs, Burps, Bottles, these are conversations that I have with sisters all the time. Do brothers talk about, yo, you don't got no kids? What's up with that? Like, what are the conversations that Black men are having? Like, what are you having in your circle with your homeboys, your tribe? Because I know this is something that's very big for women in general about being 30, not being married, and you don't got kids. So tell me about how these conversations even come up being child free, because I don't know if you guys are the only brother in your group that don't have kids, but what does that look like? So I'm gonna start with Courtney.
For me, I kind of fall between a spectrum of guy friends. So I'm also a musician, and we know how some musicians like to roll. So like I have some musician friends that got a couple of Jacksons out there. They got Tina, Toya, Jermaine, they got a bunch of them. And then I have some friends that don't have any like myself. So the age spectrum is different. Like some of my closer friends were married and got married kind of early and had regular families. And then I was the one that didn't. So there's a group of them, all of them at least got married and had kids. And then I tend to play with a lot of musicians that are younger than me. So they are not really on the conversation of like, oh, I want children, or, they're kind of really, just starting to build more so of their musical life. And I'm not really at that point of thinking like that. So I kind of fall in between those two. So the conversations, they don't have those conversations to me like, oh, you don't have kids, just because they know who I am. They know I want them. So it's kind of like not a pressure sort of conversation. But, I think those things, the people that I'm surrounded by naturally have them as a process of life and don't really have the conversations of, I had too many, or I want them, and man, I wish it would happen now, So I'm kind of the only one that thinks along those lines, but that's an internal thing for me.
Okay. Thanks, Courtney. Rob, what kind of conversations are you having with your people? Is this talked about in the little homie circle?
Yeah, we talk about it. So context, I'm 35. I guess my close group of friends, we range like from 33 to about 38. And the majority of us are married, have families, either have or are working on having kids. And then you got us, out 3 or 4 of us who are, I'll just say without kids or single. It's never damn, like you still don't have kids. That's never brought up. If anything, the people, my friends with kids, although they love their children, default, they love them to death. They'll do anything for them. It's always like, man, if I ain't having kids right now, I'd be doing just what you're doing, bro. Or it's not a longing, but it's just like appreciate the time that I have now without children. And that's my honest take on my conversations with my friends. So yeah, we talk very openly about life with kids, without kids, being married in long-term relationships. But it's never like man, like I feel sorry for you for not having kids. I never get that.
Wow. Very interesting, because I get the opposite, and I know some people who get the opposite. Darren, what are your conversations like?
So that question is it kind of like touched a nerve a little bit. So my circle, we never discuss it. It's more so actions. And when I say actions, I'm kind of in the middle. Like one side is married, children, or child. The other is unwed, but multiple children, and baby mama is down their neck. So it comes to a point where when we hang out, it's D, you're doing a good job, man. Stay focused. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like we seen you hopped on a plane 2 weeks ago to go to Cuba. Like you got time. You can do whatever you want. You can wake up, roll over and be like, I want to go to Mexico or wherever. You can do whatever you want. Well, we living through you. In hindsight, I could see like, dang, they wish they had that life too. They wish they had the time. And then I could see rather the other group of friends, their baby mamas, or I'm gonna stop saying baby mamas, the mother of their children are just breathing down their neck for no reason. They're taking care of their child. picking them up from daycare, dropping them off, so on and so forth, but they just their connection is piss poor. So I could see the encouragement that they give me rather than speaking the encouragement that they give for not bearing children yet.
Thanks, Darren. Great perspective. And CL Smooth. So what kind of conversations do people, in your group talk about having kids, or are they getting on you for not having kids at 30 plus years old? So.
Okay. I was waiting patiently for my turn to answer that question. So before I identified as a gay male, that was one of the many topics that came at me from family, from my straight friends, and I still kind of get it to this day, but I remember that time of feeling like, wow, why is everybody like pressuring me about a child just because they all have children? I'm not at that point, I was younger. I'm 47 now, so I was younger. I'm like, what is the big rush? I saw a lot of my cousins, a lot of my friends, having children, around that time. But yes, I'm sure a lot of child-free women went through. It was a lot of pressure. It didn't feel good. It made me feel like I was behind, and that's something in life that we all should never want to feel like we're behind on something. Like, we didn't have children at this age, and we didn't get married at this age, and we didn't buy a house at this age. So I'm owning my age and where I am in life. So when those conversations come up, I'm able to say, if it's in God's plan for me to have a child, or adopt a child, or meet a significant other and carry out that particular part of my legacy, then it will happen. That's actually my personal business, and maybe I don't want to discuss that with you. So that's kind of how I respond. But yeah, I totally identify. I totally understand. I mean, I had aunts and uncles before I identified as a gay man saying, what's up with you? What's wrong with you? Making me feel like there was actually something wrong with me. But so yeah, that's my response to that question.
Yeah, I appreciate all your responses because they're varying, right? But I also appreciate, because I think as Black child-free women, and just child-free women in general, we get the questions. I've had men who try to talk to me. They're like, you're not married, you don't have kids. What's wrong with you?
Right.
And so with No Bibs, Burps, Bottles, we are trying to change the narrative of there's nothing wrong with me, right? Whether it's choice or maybe I'm being responsible. And so it's interesting to hear Calvin's perspective of that pressure. So you kind of lead me into another question. Pressure from family, right? So Calvin has talked a little bit about this, but how about we start with Darren? So Darren, what is your family thinking about? You're 30 plus, maybe mama and them want some grandkids. So what are you hearing from family and cousins and things like that?
Now, this question here, there's a lot of pressure, and I don't like it, and I try to avoid certain family functions because I'm like, I don't feel like fighting today. Like, I'm aggressive. So I'll just put it into perspective. My grandfather had 32 children by maybe 4 or 5 different women, and each child had maybe 3 children minimum of their own. And again, no judgment, but none of my cousins are with the individuals they had their children with. I think I can count on one hand how many marriages there are within my generation, the bloodline. So to me, they're struggling. Like, the stories I hear, I'm like, you don't have to touch the stove to know that it's hot. Like, I'm not about to get burned. I can see y'all. I kind of want to change this narrative. So because I'm holding out and I'm being respectful and so on and so forth, it's kind of shame from them. Like, why are you not like us? You think you better than everybody else. I hear this often. We had a family reunion about 2-3 weeks ago. It's the shame that you're not in a place where they are. And I'm like, I'm happy. This is my peace. I'm going to maintain my peace. I'm in control of my peace. This is your life. That's the life you chose to, create for yourself. So be it. So that's the situation with my cousins. With my folks, there was a lot of pressure to have grandchildren because I'm the last of the last name. But after one of my sisters had a baby, the pressure, it kind of diminished a bit, but it's like it's still there because you have to keep the legacy going. And my thing is, when it happens, it will happen. I don't appreciate the constant reminder. Just let it flow, But I know when the time does happen, that's the gates of heaven gonna open up. It's gonna be, it's gonna be. I know everyone's gonna be shocked, surprised, but again, I try my best to tune it out for my own peace.
Yeah, protect that peace. Protect that peace. Thank you, Darren. Rob, what about you? What kind of conversations and pressure from family?
Well, my family situation is drastically different than my friend's situation. My mom in particular, but both my parents, they want me to have kids. I used to get the question like, hey, have you met somebody? Like, what's the girlfriend or wife situation looking like? Now it's just like, okay, you should just get somebody pregnant. You can afford it. Like, just have some kids, which is insane to me. But I do get that often from my family. I don't feel it as pressure because they don't pay my bills. I feel no responsibility or pressure to have a child and create a living being to appease somebody else. That's just ridiculous to me. But no, they definitely they want some small Robs running around. But tell them good luck. Buena suerte.
Yeah. Courtney, how is your family viewing that you have not, produced and don't have any kids with your last name? How is that coming along?
Knowing some of my family, they're from my family, they all feel like I would be a great father. So like some of them that I'm really close to, they encourage it, not at all costs, but they want me to be a father because they know how important it is to me. And they know what kind of family we have. So like they know my reasons for wanting to add to that and to pass down some of the things and the love that we received. That's my cousins. From my mom, she never talks about it. She doesn't ever say, I wish I had some grandkids. It's just like a non-conversation for her. For the most part, I don't know how my dad loved kids. So like I don't think he would have put pressure on me to have them, but he, I know he would have been very happy to have them. I'll just say that way. So I don't necessarily, I have one sister, she, would probably love for me, she would love to be an aunt. So she doesn't put pressure on me per se and say, hey, when is it going to happen or anything? But she knows, she knows my situation. She knows me as my sister. So I think I feel more pressure from time more than family because, and it's probably my own applied pressure with the way I think very linearly. So for me, I do as many things as I can to try to take care of myself and keep myself in good health. But I lost my father when he was 47. I was just barely 18. So I don't want to be, I have an uncle that had his first child at 50. I don't want to be that dude. So like, time for me is pressure because I want to mathematically give my children enough time for me to be there with them, and that's what I'm saying. I take care of myself best I can. But you can never know what's going to happen. But I know if I had kids at 60, mathematically, nobody living to be 100. Most Black men don't make it to 100. So I think in very linearly in that way. So that's the pressure I feel more so than from my family or my immediate family, I should say.
Okay. Thank you guys for sharing such unique perspectives. So I have a question for you, Darren. So in your bio, you self-identified as a Christian. And just as a shameless plug, I have interviewed someone, a minister for my podcast, and she's child free. And in that conversation, I won't give all the nuggets away, but the conversation about be fruitful and multiply. So with you identifying as a Christian male, and having those principles that are said in the church, I've heard my pastor say it as well. What are your thoughts about that? What would you maybe either tell yourself or maybe a Black man who's just like, I just don't want kids? And what does it mean to you to be fruitful and multiply?
Starting off, I would say my faith, my walk is my own ideology, my own morals are my own. And I've been asked this many times before, my answer still remains the same. God gave us all free will. Our decision-making and actions are in hopes to glorify him in all that we do. With that being said, God is not going to be angry, and God is not going to smite those that choose not to have children and or get married. Some people can't even bear children. So it's like, it's a choice. God looks at our hearts and our motives. Jesus was sinless and childless, like great example. The human heart is complex, so we can long for things, but God is not going to be angry because we chose not to. He gave us free will.
Thank you, Darren. So I'm going to throw this question to Rob, and then following Rob, Calvin, you're up next. So Rob, let's talk a little bit about dating, right? So I know in conversations that I've had, there are some women who are like, if you got kids, I'm not trying to date you. Maybe they're like me, I really don't want to date anyone who has any kids below 18. If anything, I want them to be all grown and pay their own bills. Where do you lie at that? What are your expectations as you date and navigate the dating world? What are your, do you date women with kids? Are kids off limit? Your thoughts?
So, all right, let's see. Kids are not off limits, but if I'm being perfectly honest, I have not dated women with kids. So like, I don't, as a rule, I don't just like say I'm not dating anybody with kids, but it just doesn't work out for me. And I'll be very honest, I don't like doing kid things. I'm an adult. I don't like going to kids' birthday parties. I'm not trying to have to coordinate when I can take you out on a date. I'm not trying to like figure out this babysitter situation. That's not my reality. So it's not like that alone, having a child rather, is not going to rule someone out, but it just hasn't worked for me. Like I naturally just gravitate towards people who are in the same situation that I'm in, which is free. Like I pick up and go.
Rob, I feel you in that. So CL Smooth. And so again, how does that play in your world? And so, and again, I'm making assumptions for the others, but with you sharing your sexual identity, how does that play in dating for you? Will you date men with kids, the stepfather? Are you ready for the stepfather role? So your thoughts?
I have mixed emotions on it. Like Rob said, I'm an adult. I like to do adult things. I definitely don't want to maneuver around you picking up your child from daycare. It really does depend on the person that I'm dating. If the connection is strong enough there, I'm not going to rule it out, but I don't actively seek it. And I do have friends who have children that identify as gay, which is a very interesting topic within itself. But so it's not a deal breaker, but it's not something that I'm out here trying to add me to the mix and make an instant family in 6 months. Like, nah, I'm just not there. That's not my, yeah.
Okay. Darren, you're up next.
That is a deal breaker for me. And I've been told by a lot of women that that's shallow. And I'm like, how is that shallow? They said, well, we choose to deal with men who have kids. And I'm like, that's your decision. That's that's your personal preference. That's not mine. That I don't feel like I need to be, you know, sacrificing to be with someone who has a child. And the thing is, I've done it before. I played stepdaddy before. That was the worst experience. I got with someone, she had a newborn, recently divorced, and her ex-husband was in the military. So anytime we relocated, moved, changed phone numbers, he still popped up. He had access to a system. So he's pretty much stalking. And again, I take care of mine. I'm very, and they were like, you know, you against the government, they gonna side with him. So it's best that you cut ties with this woman. And that's exactly what happened. And, you know, I don't have time for that. I just going out on dates, and I got to be mindful where I got to take you and your kid, bring you back home at a certain time. I got to pay for a meal for your kid too. There's just a lot that goes into that. And I can say I did it and I would never do it again. That is an absolute deal breaker.
A follow-up question before I let Courtney answer. So with this being a deal breaker, what would you suggest if someone was dating someone with kids and they're just like, this is just not for me, whether they're child-free, but because it's about child, it's not for them. Like, how would you delicately say that to a woman? Because women, on the other hand, would say, we date all, you know, with kids or not, but how would you share with someone how to maybe break things off if it's just not your jam?
I'm very delicate of how I go about that question, because you don't know someone's situation. They could have had children in marriage or whatever it may be. A lot of women can't bear children. I always say children are blessings. You know, that's amazing for you. Just right now where I am and my personal preference, I choose not to date someone with children. We can be friends, we can keep it cordial, but just me and what I have plans for my future, because the man leads. But, you know, in my plans in this mix, children is not in it. Your children are not in it, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Courtney, how would you answer this question?
This has been a historical, touchy subject for, you know, a lot of conversations, but I'd say historically, because it was always my idea to start a family, I think, you know, being in the situation where my parents raised me in, my ideal of building a family, you know, is a period from which you bond and learn your person, who you're married to, your partner, and then you bring children into that after you yourself get established. So that's always been, if it could happen perfectly, what I would want. That's still my preference. I have dated people a couple of times that had children, and for me, it's a lot of an adjustment. You know, I'm a proponent of counseling, so like I have to work through, you know, a lot of things. There are a lot of things that happen when you date people that have children, and the parental situation is not that sweet. So, you know, you have to really navigate. I always say, if you're dating someone with kids, you're actually dating two people, you know, at once, because that you're getting to know the person. You have emotional feelings for that person. You don't have off the bat emotional feelings for that child. That's something that a mother and a father develop because they biologically came from them. So you have to learn how to build that bond with them. You're doing that concurrently with dating the person, the mom or the father, you know. So it's if you don't have the patience for that, it's a lot of work, you know, and it may not always be a lot of work, but you really are going to have to navigate those things at the same time. And if you and the person that you're with might be going through things, it's compounded, you know what I mean? So like, for that reason, it's not preferable. I don't think any mom or father said, I want to be a baby mama, you know, like I want to be a single parent. Like it's nobody's intent to be a single parent. So it's, you have to look at it kind of objectively when it's not your child, that you didn't want to be in this situation to be a single parent. So like we have to learn to navigate that together. If you're up for that, then, you know, cool. I have tried to, you know, come down off of such a hard line on it. But I will say, you know, and I have recently, you know, dated someone that had a child. So like, it's not that I can't do it, but if it's my preference, it would be to not. That's definitely my preference, to not. If I had children, then it'd be a whole different case. But I don't, and I know what that life is like to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and not have to navigate around. You know, if you're a parent, the child dictates the younger they are, the more they dictate what you do as a parent. And if you're dating somebody, then that child is telling both of y'all what to do and how, for the most part. So there's also a spot where if you're older and you still want children, it may be easier to date somebody that has kids, but they're older. They got an 18-year-old that's going off to college. You're going to run into a lot of situations where that woman is 40 plus and she's like, I'm done, I'm not having any more children. So it could be easier to date somebody that doesn't have a smaller child, but most of them do not want to start from scratch when they got a kid in college. So it's like, you either got to find somebody that doesn't or navigate that. And my preference right now is to, not have someone that has children.
Yeah.
But there could be exceptions, I'll put it that way. It has to be, perfect, not perfect, but a situation where we both know this is what is supposed to happen. Yeah.
Wow, you guys have really blown me away with some of your responses. So I'm gonna read a few comments in the chat. I think a lot of us were surprised that Darren had someone that had a newborn. Exactly, kids are hard, no application, immediate rejection. Kids are a deal breaker for me. I just can't do it. Let's see some other good comments here. Children are a deal breaker regardless of age. Adult children can be worse than toddlers. Facts. Counseling is so beneficial. Therapy is severely underutilized in the Black community. Yes, yes, yes. So thank you guys for your comments. Keep them coming. Some believe that if men don't have kids by a certain age, that they are gay. How would you handle someone making this assumption about you?
First of all, there are so many worse things somebody could say about me other than like calling me gay. Like that's not an insult to me. And that's just so ignorant. So for me, if somebody puts themselves in that position, I will gladly let them go. I'm not really like, I get that does nothing. I'm good. So, but to people who say that though, it's hard for me to even respond to that. I'll say this. In my adult life, I don't get that at all. I can't think of any woman I've met throughout my travels and my various adventures who looked at me not having a child as a red flag. So it's a completely foreign concept to me in my personal life. But I would gladly welcome someone to present that to me so I can move on. Yeah, that's crazy.
CL Smooth, since you are, identify as a gay Black male, so maybe think about maybe some other assumptions that are made by society, people, family members, and friends. At 30, you are not married. At 30, you have no kids. What is wrong with you? And people just make these judgments. So how have you had to either handle those situations, or just your response in general?
My response in general to that question is, I guess because maybe our generation is a little bit different, but I remember those conversations of people feeling like if by a certain age you were not, if you were still single and you didn't have any children, that was the next question. And I definitely appreciate Rob's response to that question. It made me smile to hear that, because so many people put that stigma on you if you don't have children, if you're not attached at a certain age. So back then, especially in my mid to late 20s, mid to late 30s, that was, and it was viewed as a negative thing, like, you must be gay, what's wrong with you, why haven't you made any kids, what have you been doing, that type of response coming from people that you may like or love, and you're just like, yo, what's going on with that? But yeah, I've definitely, before identifying as I identify, I did have those thoughts and feelings, and I felt bad about it. I didn't know how to respond to that. And so this particular point in time in my life, I would advise people to do exactly how Rob said, be mindful of those certain things, educate people on things. And if you're comfortable in your sexuality and who you are as a person, that question is a totally ignorant question, and you need to dispel that by any means necessary. So that's pretty much my response to that.
Thank you. Thank you. Darren and Courtney, I'd like for you guys to respond, but again, we can broaden it a little bit. So just like, what do you believe are assumptions about Black men who don't have kids by the age of 30? Because I know there are a lot made about women. So Darren, and then following Darren, Courtney.
There are a lot of assumptions about being, this age and kidless, and I didn't even know like how prominent it was. I'm always told, just by some of my women friends and by women I meet at brunch or wherever it may be, you're an anomaly. Like, you are a Black man, straight, no kids, never been wed. You're a man after God's heart. You're financially stable. You're mentally stable. You're respectful. You're good looking. You're all of these things. But then on, another hand, women say that's a red flag for me, because I feel like someone should have snatched you up already. And I had to really respectfully put a lot of people in their place. Like, that's not a red flag. Everyone has a journey. Everyone has a preference. If I choose to continue, building wealth, generational wealth for my family, or I'm waiting for the right person, or whatever it may be, whatever my personal thing may be, doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong with me. It doesn't mean that I'm gay. And I think that's, like, Calvin said, that's totally disrespectful and is ignorant. But I really had to tell a lot of women about themselves. Like, it's not always something wrong, because on the flip side, if we were to say that about them, then it'd be a problem. They'd be ready to flip tables.
Yeah. Thank you, Darren. And before we get to Courtney, there's some chats going on. I see a lot of, so again, our guest and even our panelists, if you have time to skim the chats, there's some great comments coming in. Courtney.
Essentially everything he just said. I've experienced the same, comments over the years. I think the human brain has a need to do social mathematics. So we have to kind of make sense of things, and for people to look at something that doesn't add up, then they make assumptions based on the social climate. You know what I mean? So I'm an alternative kind of person, so to speak. Like, I have a similar pedigree, so to speak. I have a home, no children, great credit score, all of the things that, on paper that you would say, like, why is he still single? But I've also, the people that know me don't make that assumptions, because they know I'm heterosexual, right? So I don't get it from friends. You only get that kind of from random people or people that you might date. So I think if you're sort of an alternative male, you don't quite add up to people, then they have to try to make those assumptions. Because I know the brain has a need for that, I don't take as offense to it. But like he said, I will check people when it's like, nah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is who I am. Like, I don't want to be cavalier with the person that I build a life with. So yeah, I've been called picky many times. I personally don't believe in picky, and that's a whole other conversation. But I don't go into hope smash mode on people that say that. I just have the conversation and address it. But I know for them it's like something has to be wrong, because in their mind we have a need to make things add up.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Courtney. You guys are, these nuggets. So Rob, we'll start with you. So prior to me reaching out to you, did you view yourself as child-free? Did you think that this child-free thing was even a thing? Like, what were you thinking about me reaching out to you and just child-free? Was it on your radar, or were you just a brother with no kids?
No, I mean, I guess I didn't have a name for it. I wouldn't have just classified it that way, but I've been very vocal about the love I have of my current life. Like I said, once again, my friends and I, we talk very openly and very regularly about just our lives, relationships, children, family, life. Life is good. For me to change that, it's gonna have to, like, she got to be off the chain. So I guess to your question, I didn't have, I guess I wouldn't have just dubbed it child free, but no, I've been very vocal and very actively living the child free life for a few years now. So yeah, it's a choice.
Darren, what about you? I know we have a mutual friend in common, and I appreciate him connecting us, but what were your initial thoughts when I reached out to you and said, like, hey, can you talk about this topic? And prior to this, did you know about this child-free space that people are occupying?
Like Rob said, I didn't have a name for it. It was kind of like I acknowledged it. I knew it was there. It's just something that I didn't dwell on it. I just knew that I knew being in my 30s and I seen everybody else doing it, like, what is this season of my life called? And when you called, and it's so funny because I was sitting in traffic and we had a great conversation about it. And I definitely been looking forward to this night since that conversation. I was in LA traffic, which is ridiculous. But I'm very appreciative of, having the opportunity to do this, and now finding a name and seeing that it's a community to, assist with this.
Cool. What about you, CL Smooth? What were your thoughts about did you know about child-free life? Did you think people were talking about it? Was it a big deal, not a big deal, not on your radar?
So when you first reached out, which is what you asked the other ones, I immediately thought, maybe she just needs another panelist. I don't know. But yes, I've always thought about that, being child-free, being child-free. Especially with me, I'm a single person, and I'm also parentless and grandparentless. So the thought of having a child in some capacity has definitely entered my mind, because of creating some sort of legacy, and as well as carrying on my father's last name. So I've definitely had those thoughts, and at times felt kind of lonely about it. Like, if I had a child right now, I wouldn't be maybe as lonely as a single gay man. But I'm happy with my life. I'm absolutely happy. I'm able to pick up and go at any moment. I do whatever I want, whenever I want to do it. So, but when you reached out to me, I thought about it in great detail. And because I know you, know your website, know your platform and everything like that, I was honored that you reached out. So I definitely do appreciate that. So over my conversation, I'll definitely be talking with friends about it a little bit more as well. So.
Thank you. And before we get to Courtney, and you and I go way back, but I also was intentional, right? Because I think even with women, there are assumptions that it's just women, men, men, women, right? There are same-sex individuals that have to deal with these same issues. So I was intentional on inviting you because I think we can make assumptions that this just, these type of conversations or judgments or assumptions are only about heterosexual couples. So we are at the mark where we're going to close here with one last question. We'll start with Rob. Following Rob will be Darren. Following Darren will be Calvin, and then Courtney will be up next. Rob, how will you leave your legacy should you not have children?
I mean, there are so many ways to leave an impact on the world. And that's a really good question. And that comes up. So I'll talk about my group of friends or whatever. That does get brought up. People saying like, I want to leave a legacy. I want my bloodline. I want my name to carry on through the ages. And I understand. I respect that. That's not particularly a drive for me. I have relationships. Like I have nieces and nephews. I have like my friends' children are I will send them birthday cards. I'll get them gifts. Like they need something, I'm gonna sneak them tonight. You know what I'm saying? So there are ways for me to leave my impact on the world that don't involve me having children. I had said, I'm a workaholic. Like it's not without or outside of reason for me to have like several buildings named after me. Like there are other ways to leave a legacy. That's just my own personal opinion. It's not, it doesn't drive me.
There are definitely ways to leave a legacy outside of bearing children. I feel like that's the physical, like the biological way of leaving your legacy. But as I said in my bio, I am active in my community. One of my love languages is acts of service. I'm always doing for others because I care. I'm starting a nonprofit. I'm actively involved in the church. I have 2 community groups that I'm involved with. I started partnering with my employer based on their community events. A host of cousins, relatives. I always make sure that I do my part in assisting and helping them. So there are definitely ways to leave your legacy, remembrance. So it doesn't always involve having a child.
Okay, I'm just going to piggyback pretty much what the previous 2 panelists have said. Absolutely, there's ways to leave an impression and a legacy. I plan to continue to build my business, expand my business. I'm very active with my college. I was just up there today, actually. And I have really close friends, and I have a lot of input and impact on other people. So yeah, there's definitely ways that I'm going to leave my mark on this world when I'm gone. So just keep doing me.
I think for me, that would be something I'd have to process through. I think because one of the reasons that I want to have children is because of that, is to, continue the things that I got from my family. There's a lot of bad in the world, and there's a lot of good in the world. You feel like your family has contributed to the good, and you know what that feels like. Those are the reasons that drive me to want to pass it on. I think, I guess that would be considered legacy. So if that doesn't happen, there, like everyone else said, there's other ways you can leave a legacy. You can, we are all impacting people that we care about and maybe not know every day. So, you have to look at it that way as well. But also, I'm a musician, so I can leave a legacy with my music, and, many other ways. So hopefully I won't have to process that, and I will have a child in the future. But if not, then, we all can adapt. I plan to adapt.
I'm going to give our panelists just a minute to just share any final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up and say goodnight. We'll start with Courtney first.
I'm good. It was a good conversation. I appreciate you asking me to join. So I'm good to go.
Thank you. Calvin?
I just want to say thank you to everyone and to you for inviting me to this discussion. It was a great discussion, a lot of questions. I learned a lot from the panelists as well. I appreciate everyone letting me be transparent. And so hope to see you guys again soon.
All right. Rob?
First, thank you, Angela, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for creating this platform. Like I said, I'm in my mid-30s, and a lot of my friends, associates, women in my life are, childless or child-free by choice or by circumstance. And so I'm really happy that this space exists for them to have a community, because it is tough. Like my life is not the life that some of my counterparts live. So I do see the pressure that they face, and I'm just happy that they have this. So thank you.
Thank you. And we'll end with Darren.
I first want to say thank you, Angela, for presenting this opportunity and allowing me to be on the panelists. I am extremely grateful to the panelists. I learned something new from each of you all. It was great being up here with y'all. And thank you for everyone that tuned in. I was actually looking at the chat. You all really had that chat live. I was hoping that y'all were going to come off of mute, ask some questions. But overall, this was a really dope experience.
Cool. Well, thank you, Darren, Rob, Courtney, and Calvin. I appreciate you all. And thank you to all our guests. Thank you for supporting me as Angela Harris. Thank you for supporting my brand, No Bibs, Burps Bottles. Please tell a friend, tell another child-free bestie to come and see what we're all about at No Bibs, Burps Bottles. And this event concludes our summer speakers series, and look out for more events from No Bibs, Burps Bottles. And lastly, please go over to our Instagram page. Please share a comment, share what resonated with you, share what you're going to take away from tonight's event. And I just thank and appreciate you all. And again, congratulations to our winners, and have a great night. And I always conclude with saying, womanhood is not synonymous with motherhood. Take care. Peace. You have been listening to the No Bibs, Burps, Bottles podcast, a podcast dedicated to the stories of African American women without children. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, keep living your best child-free life.